Max, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Released in June. You guys must be crunching numbers, getting things finalized now. How close are you to that end point?
It is so nice to say that my job, not everybody else, everybody at the studio is crunching, my job is pretty much done. Because when I go in there, I just want to change things and fix things. And now, at this point, we are just crushing bugs. We are at beta.
And obvious enough, co-op, dark fantasy, two characters, long range, elf, Elara?
Elara,
I just want to get the pronunciation right.
That was
good. And swordsman, Kodak?
Katic. Your pronunciation could be right.
I'm going to say it's the accent. What can I say?
It's the accent.
But obviously enough, you talked during the presentation about the idea behind this to make a co-op game. But can you just sort of give us a sort of bit of background for the viewers about the thought process behind it to make a co-op game, to make a fantasy game, bundle them together, boom.
Yeah, you know, it really started from our love of fantasy games, and you know, it goes back to the old dungeon crawls. It even goes back to older games that have really good graphics that we would look at when we were playing them and go, God, if you could just go everywhere and do everything and do it fast-paced, like a really high-end action game, the intensity of a shooter, that's where it started. And co-op was from the very beginning. We always said, we're gonna have these two players and they're gonna go through the game and they're gonna be different. And that was a big deal, to make them different. And from a production standpoint, it's a big deal as well. Because when you're dealing with one character that's one type, say it's a ranged character, you can then create the second character being ranged, and it's not that difficult. But when you do, one is decidedly different. One is melee, one is ranged, and those abilities it's a big contrast there.
And what was nice from the playthrough we had today is it's not just your hack and slash thing. You really have to think tactics here. Like we're fighting those warriors. I'm having to back up, leave their back so you can shoot them basically. And it's that case of every enemy in the game has certain techniques to go through, certain techniques to combat them with.
Yeah, it's all about tactics. It's all about strategy, and that goes to the spells as well. Some of the spells cater to cooperative tactics. Some of them cater to single tactics. But like you said, exactly, the guys with the shields, if I'm Elara and I'm going and I've got my bow out, these guys will really have a good defense against my bow. Even if I want to go for their heads, they'll raise their shields up, they'll put their shields down. There's the strategy even goes to Katic, of course. And so ranged guys, when Katic rushes up close to them, they do more damage to him. So he's got to really think twice. Hey, there's a lot of ranged guys, I better hang back. And it goes to the bosses as well, and the mini bosses. So there are guys that cater to ranged, and then guys that are more tank-like and will charge you and do a lot of melee damage as well.
And talking about the exploration side of things, obviously enough you've got your main quests which you're working through, but you've layered so many little mini quests and little hidden objective points throughout the game. It really sort of enriches the experience. Can you sort of discuss perhaps, obviously not what the idea was behind them, but how you actually implemented that?
Yeah, I mean, the explorations is a huge part of the game. When I play the game and doing all the exploration, it becomes a 20-hour experience. And I know the game, so it could even be longer. But the exploration, the cool thing about it is that we made them, so you've got this linear path, and then there are branches. And then the exploration branches, we can make them more difficult, more challenging, because if the player gets frustrated, they could get back on the main path. But we really thought it would be a challenge. Better to think of it as a challenge, really. We wanted to challenge players. And then, some of them are easier and some of them are more difficult. Another thing that, I'm really proud of is the personality that's coming through with the game. Lucy Lawless plays Seraphine, and Graham McTavish plays Katic. Graham McTavish is going to be in The Hobbit, so that's very cool. And the personalities, I mean, just to give you an example of like a situation that you would find in the game, if you know how when you're playing in single player and you bump into your AI partner, it just happens, you're in tight hallways and stuff. So randomly we have it set where they will say, they'll be like, hey, what are you doing? You know, so you'll be like walking along and all of a sudden you're bumping into your partner and they'll be like, whoa, what are you doing? Another cool situation is in exploration. This is a great example of some of the personality we put in the game is that if you are playing Laura and you ask Caddick, hey, stand on that pressure plate, he stands on the pressure plate, fire goes down, she runs up to get the item, and then all of a sudden the fire goes up and you just hear Caddick laughing. You turn around and you're like, what was that, you know? And she actually has a line, she's like, Caddick. And he's like, oh, okay, Laura. And then you know. So it just gives a good idea of the flavor of the game. It's a serious game, you know. They're serious characters, but they're people. And they've been together a long time, so they joke and they have fun.
I was going to ask about that, particularly for the dialogue and from what we've seen. Sort of like, there's a dark humor to a lot of sort of like fantasy books, films and such like that. How important is that to have that element of humor to what, like you said, is a very serious game?
Well, it's vital to us. You know, that's part of our company. You know, that's what we're all about, is having personality, making the characters likable, real, funny, you know, interesting, and we think that that's a huge part of the game and the experience.
Okay, and where are you at the moment? Obviously enough for the game coming out in June. We're sort of talking about number crunching, everything like that.
Right.
Perhaps, obviously enough, you can't talk about this yet, but is there any thoughts about carrying on the story from this?
Oh, yeah, I mean, you know, we would love to do that. You know, we'll see in the future. You know, the other thing too that we didn't mention, but split screen's in now. That's a big feature that we have been kind of working on off and on. At first we didn't think we would get it in, and we got it in, so we're excited about that. And Crucible map editor, which I can't really say more than that there is something beyond the single player campaign that is a map editor, and the gold that you find throughout the world will help you out in that.
Excellent. Looking forward to trying it out, mate.
Yeah.
I think that's really us wrapping up for the day. Watch the video, check out the game when it's released, and any last words?
No, that's it. Check it out.